the Scottish Football Forums podcast. Today I'm once again joined by Laurie, the co-host. Hello, Laurie.
Hello.
Alright. And bringing back a guest from a couple of weeks ago, we have John.
Hi,
Hello,
Craig.
Alright, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, I am good. I'm sitting enjoying my nice John Smiths.
Oh, I've got my cider.
Laurie, what about you?
I've got a cup of tea.
Well, whatever floats your boat.
I'm the young one here as well.
Yeah. So I thought we'd start off with the League Cup, and I know that you probably won't want me to mention it. Laurie, were you a Hearts fan, and John, you an Aberdeen fan?
Aye, because you lot done much better, didn't you?
Yeah, well, yeah. The results: Aberdeen drew 3 each with East Fife and ended up going out 4-3 to East Fife. Dundee United beat Airdrie United 2-0, a convincing win. Killie beat Queen of the South 5-0. Motherwell drew 2 each with Hibs winning 7-6 on penalties. St Mirren knocked St Johnstone out 2-0. And on the Wednesday's games, Hearts got knocked out by Ayr after drawing 1 each, and they got beat 4-1 in penalties. Rangers got beat 3-2 off Falkirk, and Celtic beat Ross County 2-0. So there's quite a few lower league teams, if you will, beating SPL, with Aberdeen probably being the shock of the round, getting beat off East Fife, but others, well, Hearts and Rangers, and, well, maybe Motherwell being a bit of a shock as well, especially with Hibs, the way they've been playing. How did you feel, Laurie, getting beat off Ayr United?
Never happy to lose, especially, well, with all due respect to United, to a team that we should really be beating. You know, they're bottom of the first division, and we are, well, are claimed to be one of the bigger teams in Scotland. Certainly, obviously, with their third place finish in recent seasons. Wasn't surprised though. I didn't think it was an especially a shock result, and it never really is, I think, in the League Cup, especially when it comes to us. I've been saying on the forum, I said before the match, I wasn't overly confident anyway. It was a kind of a windy, wet sort of evening up in a sort of old-fashioned type ground, they said, when the Hearts bus arrived. And obviously Sergio and his Portuguese back room got off and asked where the changing rooms were, but I think they were in the changing rooms at the time. They weren't very far from. So the facilities weren't what they're used to from their time at Sporting Lisbon. So obviously it's a bit of a culture shock sometimes, and for any of these, well, big teams, I say, it can often be difficult to go to these grounds, because for Ayr United, it's kind of their cup final. You know, they'll tend to give a lot more because it's seen as a scalp, whereas a lot of the Hearts players will be seeing it as, can I really be bothered? It's a lower division team in a cup that we never take seriously, and that's one of my problems, is we never seem to take it seriously. And you know, when you're outside the Old Firm, you've probably got 2 trophies you'll win. You could win. It's rare that you win any of them anyway, but you've got the League Cup and the Scottish Cup, and I agree it's not as big a trophy as the Scottish Cup, but it's a trophy there. And to just go out so easily, we made 8 changes and a lot of the players didn't seem that up for it. And whilst we still had most of the ball, I heard, and we still had a team well capable of beating Ayr United, it just came as a little surprise. And I think that was some of the topics between all the teams. I know Rangers made, I think, 5 changes for their game against Falkirk, and Aberdeen made a few changes, and they all kind of failed to deliver in the end. So there seems to be a certain level of disdain towards the League Cup, and maybe a lack of respect from some of these SPL teams, because, you know, in my eyes, trips to Ayr, trips to Ross County, trips to Falkirk are just as difficult, if not maybe more difficult, than playing away in some of the SPL teams. Aberdeen is 5. I think Aberdeen are just on this slump at the moment, and they seem to be appalling in cups in general, so maybe slightly different there. But yeah, there seems to be a certain level of nonchalance from teams when it comes to the League Cup.
Yeah, I think with ourselves, obviously, being at home against East Fife, bottom of the second division, when the draw was made, I thought we were through, even though we've not been in great form. But typical of us with our recent cup kind of run, apart from last year. I think there's been about 6 times over the last few years we've been beaten by lower league teams. And maybe the worst thing was that at the end of the day, when the result was kind of finalised, that a lot of fans weren't really that surprised in a way, because we've just become used to it. I did think though, when we went 2-1 up through Mackie, that full-time outfit at home, we should be winning. Then obviously they came back to being 3-2, and we got maybe possibly a fortunate penalty. I don't know if either of you saw it, the highlights at all.
Yeah, I did. Remind me again what the penalty was for.
It was Chalali. He was kind of going away from goal, and I don't know, it didn't look as if there was much contact. It was a bit of a soft one.
Yeah, I think I do remember seeing it. I mean, that was for me was a turning point. Was that when they got the equaliser, and I presumed, they've equalised the injury time. East Fife are going to be gutted, so close to that win. And the main thing I thought, East Fife are part time. They're not full time. A lot of them are teachers and whatnot through the day, and they'd finish work early, had to travel up, and they had work the next morning. They don't train full time. I thought SPL team, the fitness is going to tell now. Another half an hour on top of that. But it didn't apparently. East Fife kind of held their own even in extra time and could have won it in that. And a few people mentioned to me they have a lot of doubts over Craig Brown's sort of his fitness kind of training, how he keeps the Aberdeen players in shape, and maybe that has to be called into question as well. You certainly expect, especially when you're playing, as you say, second division team, where that difference, the drop from the first to the second, where it generally goes to part time, where they're not even training all week, would be a big issue. But yeah, I mean, you look at East Fife results. I think they got beat 6-0 at home to Dumbarton 2 weekends ago, and it just doesn't look good for Aberdeen, especially as you say when you're at home. I fully expected Aberdeen to go through comfortably, and you look at them last season. They played East Fife at home, and they were pretty terrible at that time as well. Aberdeen, and they won 6-0, didn't they?
They did, yeah, in January.
Yeah.
I think what makes it even worse for ourselves is obviously with Hearts and Rangers both got out. Okay, we're not in the greatest of form, but a wee cup run can give the kind of club a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
Then, so a lot of people kind of same as kind of Hearts with the continuity. A lot of fans that I spoke to on Twitter were saying that okay, we probably should have won with the team we put out, but still we should have kind of kept with the same team that came back on last Saturday against Kilmarnock, and just give those players a chance to kind of get their confidence up.
Especially for Aberdeen, I think. I mean, maybe not. I mean, with Hearts, we do have a ridiculously big squad. We must have the biggest first team squad still in the league by far. When we can swap 11 players sometimes, 11 then 11 in the next game, and it's. I think with Aberdeen when they are, I mean, we're not being great recently, but I think Aberdeen especially are so low in confidence. You'd think play your first choice team, and if they end up winning 5-6-0, then great. Maybe your strikers, maybe Chalali or whoever Fallon gets a couple of goals. That could do wonders for them, especially when they've not got, well, Fallon has now, he's got that one from the penalty, but they've not really started at the new club yet. So yeah, it's the type of game where you're on a slump like Aberdeen that maybe it would be the ideal time to get everyone's confidence up.
Yeah, I think that Craig Brown, with his experience, wouldn't go into this knowing or assuming that it's an easy game. So yeah, I was surprised that he'd let them, well, almost be put out in 90 minutes. I think they're very lucky to go through. And as you mentioned earlier, that going into extra time, I think 99 times out of 100 you're going to go for the SPL team in that respect, because they are the ones that are training full time. They're the ones that should have that fitness. So yeah, I think you're right to question the fitness at the club, because, well, how often are East Fife going to be training during the week? Once, maybe twice, and that's on top of a full-time job. So they're not going to be able to put in as much as the Aberdeen players would hopefully do. And also, well, scoring 2 minutes into injury time, where I'm sure these 5 players were starting to think of the next round already, because, well, it's natural if you're winning at that stage of the game. So to get that blow, you would think then that the team who'd just come back would go on to win, but no, knocked out.
Not to be. On a lighter note, I don't know if either of you heard the Craig Brown interview after the game.
No, I've not heard it yet.
No, I've got a clip of it here if you want to, we'll have a quick listen to it now. Basically, I was just, they seemed to interview Craig Brown suspiciously close to the changing room toilets, and the clip I've got is slightly censored to the one I originally heard, which I will admit was on a different show. I kind of stole it from, but I thought it was funny, and if anyone's listening maybe haven't heard it, I thought it'd be quite amusing, so maybe put it on just now. Have a quick listen and hear that Craig Brown seems to be standing directly next to the cubicles in the changing room toilets.
Well, all I can say is that I've not experienced this kind of situation before at any club or with the national teams. I've never lost to, dare I no disrespect his fight, but I'm in a team from a lower division or a country from a much lower ranking. That didn't happen to me. Now, therefore, I'm hurting because it has happened. But I can see in a team, I'm looking at a football team here, and I can see what's
That
required.
is brilliant. That is superb. Is it Craig Brown that's standing down the pee?
I don't know if that's what I was... The first clip I heard, there was whoever was in the toilet before sounded like they were going for a number 2, but for some reason that isn't in the one I found. I don't know if they maybe edited that bit out, but there seemed to be some dodgy noises. It just seemed hard to have this interview right next to the toilets.
No, I like to imagine that they're both standing at the urinals just casually, just chatting away.
But I mean, back to the results. Yeah, away from Aberdeen, obviously Rangers. I think that was possibly the bigger one of them, especially off the back of an impressive Old Firm victory. Falkirk, a very young side. I think players as young as 16 out there, so
Yeah, yep.
They'll be absolutely delighted. I know Stephen Presley likes to get very animated on the touchline, and I think he would have been showing his delight down there after that win, especially, again, similar to Aberdeen, when it looked like they'd thrown it away after being 2-0 up. That was, again, what shocked me a lot, that they came back from that setback, losing the 2-goal lead to then go and win, although I think a lot has to go down to Mr. Alexander in the Rangers goal.
Howler.
Yeah, he seemed to get both hands on it, and well, you just expect him to save that every time. I just don't know what happened. But then when the goal went in, the scorer Miller, he ran across to the bench, and he ended up in a bit of a pile up, and Presley was there jumping about. And to be honest, I was watching the highlights, so it wasn't during the game, but I was watching the highlights, and I was willing Presley to jump on top. I just thought he wants to join in.
He has infuriated and fallen out with a few opposing support. I think with some of his actions on the touchline, but he's always been quite a passionate guy, and he always liked that sort of fist pumping, chest banging sort of celebrations when he was at Hearts, and then we loved it. And then I remember he came back to Tynecastle with Celtic, had done the same thing to their stands, and the people still haven't forgiven him for that. But there you go.
Yeah, I think you'd much rather have somebody passionate than somebody who just can't be bothered. But yeah, I thought that Alagui looked good. I think his 2 goals, well, especially the second one, there's no way he should have won that, but he just had the desire. So yeah, it was a good result for Falkirk, definitely.
It cheered me up anyway after Tuesday night, seeing Falkirk beat Rangers.
Yeah, I'm not sure many would have suspected that happening. Especially, well, Rangers did make a few changes, but they were still putting out a team that should have been able to deal with Falkirk. And I don't know, I'm not sure if it's all in their minds or not, because maybe beating Celtic was a bad thing. Maybe it just got them a bit too hyped up.
In terms of the cup, I mean, I did open a little thread on the forum after Wednesday, focusing particularly on Hearts, because every season I feel like we seem to get, no matter how, I mean, a lot of people forget that even under Burley, under his great run, his one defeat, which everyone actually seems to forget completely, he did have one defeat, and it was in the League Cup, and it was against Livingston, and he kind of changed the team around a bit and rested a couple of players, and it seems to happen every year. No matter how well or how badly we're doing, we'll play in the League Cup, we'll play a lower league team, and we'll change it around a bit. And even then, the players who come in don't seem to really want to kind of go out there and risk kind of injury or too much in that game, because they've got the SPL coming at the weekend. So I put the forum out there saying, is there a bit of lack of respect and kind of commitment when it comes to these games? And I mean, a few people commented, I mean, in terms of Celtic, John A. Robb said that the Celtic changes they made midweek against Ross County, in a game they obviously won 2-0, were not to give players a rest or to treat the tournament lightly. They had to